Yell at me if you are toothless! Yeah, sort of, right? Somewhere in the city, a dentist is very disturbed that I just yelled that at you, but you knew what I meant. My name is Gray Drake. I'm the senior editor of Rotten Tomatoes. Keep it going! I'm so excited to be here at the best con in the best city with the best fans. And I can assure you what we're going to show you here today is going to blow your mind, so get ready. Because I find myself feeling like a little bit emotional. I started to think about this is the end of an era. And the movie that we're going to talk about today is something that's been really near and dear to my heart because I've laughed and I've cried and I've been flying and I've learned and remembered that when you close yourself off to learning new things, meeting new people, you're really shortchanging yourself and missing out on some of the greatest gifts that this world has to offer you, and that's what these movies make me think about. So it's really an honor to be here today to talk about the third movie in the How to Train Your Dragon series, The Hidden World. So please keep your applause going. We're going to welcome out our guests, writer, director, Dean DeBlois, producer, Brad Lewis, and Hiccup himself, Jay Baruchel. Oh my God, we have so much to cover. Let's just jump right into it, Dean. Tell us everything, including the end. Go.
Listen, we're really excited to be here, and it's we've come to know that the fans of this trilogy are very vocal and passionate and fervent, and we love you all. We love that you support what we do, and we love that you kind of course correct us when we go astray, and you let us know what you think. It's amazing. It's amazing to be part of a fandom that is so vibrant, and so it's exciting to be here. We're going to show you some clips from the movie, and we're going to answer a few questions.
And not just some, you guys, a lot of clips. God. So you've been hard at work for a long time, and honest to God, before we even get started talking, I just want to show the first clip. Is that okay? Can we just jump right into it?
Let's do it.
So,
yes.
Why don't you go ahead and set up this first one that we're going to see? It kind of introduces what's been happening.
Sure. So our story picks up about a year after the events of How to Train Your Dragon 2, and rookie Chief Hiccup is now leading raids on trapper ships and rescuing dragons, bringing them back to their very overcrowded home island of Berk. His group of dragon riders are quite the talented bunch, but they still haven't quite figured out how to work together and not be so heavily reliant upon their dragons, and that's what this sequence helps to set up.
Let's roll it. Brad.
And just so everybody knows, that is temp music. John Powell is busy working away. He finishes next week. We go to score in London in about 2 weeks.
Awesome. Jay, our little hiccups all growed up.
Yes, this is bound to happen eventually, and now I'm just holding my breath waiting for me to grow up.
Fair enough. We're all taking notes, so it's good to know it includes you too. Brad, can you talk about jumping in on this in a production way? Because the movies that you've worked on are really visually amazing. So, like, what's a challenge in producing a movie like this as compared to something like Lego Batman?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing always is, if you've got a director that's got a vision like Dean does, it's everybody lining up, listening what Dean's aspirations are, and all of us trying to sort of really outdo ourselves to make sure that we're bringing choices to him that fit into this story that we can do in a really special way. So there's these incredibly talented artists, I mean, ridiculously talented artists, and the arc that we see, the early lighting setups that we see, the effects and everything, they just blow us away. But it's all about lining up under a vision and an aspiration.
When every How to Train Your Dragon movie has blown me away visually, and you guys keep topping yourselves. And there's a reason for that. Can you talk about, I mean, for someone like me that's a layperson, what kind of effects exist now, or what kind of software are you using, or what's a technological advance that helped you keep upping the ante with this movie too?
Well, it gets better every year. So when we started on the original How to Train Your Dragon, that was a decade ago. And I was amazed because I came from hand-drawn animation. We'd just done Lilo and Stitch, Chris Sanders and I at Disney, and then there were some years in between, but when we started on this, it was our first CGI animated movie, and the tools were amazing. Like, we were so used to stripping away details because you simply couldn't have the pencil mileage to draw them frame by frame. And suddenly we had all this lush detail, but we were limited to sets. We could only have a few sets. And just every year things get better. They used to warn us, don't have anything interact with water. You know, nothing can push its way through an amorphous form like cloud. Or it's okay to blow up a building, that's relatively easy, but you know, there are certain forms that are just really difficult to calculate.
Don't have anybody walk through flame.
Right? So here it is 10 years later, and we can do all of those things and then some. And it's gotten to a point where if you can dream it, we can create it. And it's boundless. It's really, really exciting.
And I just got to pop in. There's this crazy new render that they did specifically for the vision of Dragon 3 that we're debuting on the movie. So it's a beautiful new tool for us, and we're using every bit of it.
There is, all of these effects you're talking about are also contributing to a new character that I am so pumped about. Now, we teased that character in this last clip, but can you set up the next clip we're going to see?
Sure. So coinciding with the appearance of a terrible threat to Hiccup's way of life is this kind of wondrous thing, this rare and elusive dragon, a variation of a night fury that appears in Hiccup's life rather mysteriously but rather innocently. And it begins this kind of crazy courtship. For Toothless, it's love at first sight. He wants to know everything about her, but she wants nothing to do with human beings. And so she is equally intrigued by him, and she makes a few appearances in the story. This is one of them. We call this First Date. And while Hiccup and his band are in search of a myth, the myth of the hidden world, they stop on an island, they set up camp, and she sneaks into that camp in the middle of the night trying to lure Toothless away. One thing you should know about her, she has a rather unique ability. She can blast a fireball ahead of herself, fly through it, and in doing so, she heats up her skin and her scales, and they turn mirror-like. So she effectively disappears. If she's in a cloudscape, she mirrors the clouds. If she's in foliage, she'll mirror that foliage. And so she effectively vanishes until she cools off again. And that's how she sneaks into this camp.
That's like when I was growing up, my mom did that.
We all wish we could do that at times.
One thing to remember is that Toothless is the last of his kind. And so he's just had a lot of exposure to Hiccup and the Vikings of Berk. He doesn't know the ways of dragon courtship. And so he finds himself relying upon Hiccup to advise him, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, let's roll this.
So this is a sequence. We call it First Date. And again, this is temp music. This is Forbidden Friendship from the first movie. It will have a soundtrack of its own very soon.
Video is? Well, you should, because Captain Video was the first superhero show on television. It's okay, actually, that you don't know who he is, because we're about to tell you.
Take you to the secret mountain retreat of Captain Video, Master of Space, Hero of Science, Captain of the Video Rangers.
Operating from a remote mountain hideout in Earth's far future, Captain Video and his Video Rangers were champions of justice who employed advanced technology, or, 1949's version of advanced technology, to rid the world of evil. Created by Larry Menken and launched live on June 27, 1949 at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Dumont Television Network, Captain Video originally starred Richard Coogan in the title role and blasted into homes 6 days a week. Each installment began with the rousing intro theme song using Richard Wagner's Overture to the Flying Dutchman as the camera zoomed in on the high-altitude hidden lair of the courageous captain and his intrepid rangers. Each 23-minute episode dealt with Captain Video's quest to take out an assortment of bad guys like Hing Fu Sung, the mad scientist Dr. Polly, Mook the Moon Man, and Nargola, played by a young Ernest Borgnine. The show was written by sci-fi luminaries like Arthur C. Clarke, Jack Vance, Isaac Asimov, and Milt Lesser, who each contributed their own far-out ideas and plots, such as the 7-foot robot, which was also the first appearance of a robot on live televised science fiction. Captain Video is famous for its extremely low-budget Philadelphia production. It later moved to New York City, after which the show often inexplicably switched to footage of old cowboy movies to pad each episode's length.
Ah, but here's an old friend of ours who really knows what he's doing. The man with the star on his chest.
Put him in the calaboose, the man with the star on his chest.
Captain Video also birthed another familiar trend, the tie-in products, at least from a superhero TV show sense. Collectibles featured a super cool flying saucer ring, a secret seal ring, a bubble space helmet, cast photos, electronic goggles, a secret ray gun, a rocket ship keychain, decoders, membership cards, and a set of 12 plastic spacemen and aliens. Early television was sometimes a chaotic free-for-all, and it all added to the fun and spontaneity. The show's prop budget was $25 per week, but the producers made that dollar stretch. Captain Video's secret mountaintop base was a simple drawing on a 4x4 piece of cardboard. The cockpit of Cap's Galaxy spaceship was pieced together with cardboard and then decorated with painted-on instruments and dials. After 1,500 episodes, the show was canceled, and the reason the captain went away, like most cancellations, had to do with money. You see, when TV first became a thing in the 1940s, there were 3 major networks: NBC, CBS, and Dumont. ABC came along toward the end of the decade in 1948. Thing was, NBC, CBS, and ABC all also owned radio stations, and in the early days of TV didn't make a lot of money. So those networks had radio profits to fall back on. Dumont didn't. So that's the story of the world's first superhero TV show. Go check out some of their clips on YouTube. They are bonkers.
How is Captain Video going to feel when he learns that I, Dr. Foley, his bitterest enemy, has also reached the outer limits?
This just popped into my head while I was sitting here watching all of us kind of take in the footage and get to hear everybody responding to it. Jay, did this kind of bring up any memories for you of a time in your life when you may have embarrassed yourself in front of someone that was important for some reason?
Remind me, it's still my life. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I've been toothless and hiccup in that situation before. Yeah.
Have you found yourself like learning something from these characters over the years, and with your, when you're going through a script and when you're kind of figuring out how to play hiccup?
Oh, geez. It's kind of definitely. But at this point, it's weird. It's like we've been at this for it feels like over 10 years, and there's 3 movies and like 7 or 8 seasons of the TV show that I do the voice on as well, and so thank you. That's the only reason I mentioned that, was to elicit that reaction. No, thank you. Yeah, it's weird. I've never played a character as much as I've played him. I've never spent as much time playing one single person as Hiccup. So sometimes it's hard to see where I stop and he begins.
I think that's actually a good way to segue into this next clip, because we're seriously not even close to being done yet, you guys. It's gonna get even better, and there are even more surprises. But this next thing coming up, I feel like you might be as mad as I was.
Well, so yeah, we brought a clip. This is the first time. You're the first audience to ever see it. It's still under construction. Still under construction. So pardon the mishaps here and there. But this sequence is about the central conflict of our story. We have Hiccup and his band of merry Vikings who try to maintain a peaceful way of life with dragons, and we have others out there who want to unravel that. Into the story comes a notorious prize hunter named Grimmel, hired to extract Toothless, who is the alpha of the dragon flock, and thereby as a means to control him. And without saying much more, they know that there some nefarious things have been happening around Berk, and Hiccup has been warned, and so he vows that he'll be ready for this guy when he shows up. Let's play the clip. This is called Grimmel Pays a Visit.
Star Wars was the first film that I ever saw in the theater. My mom said I was standing up on my seat, like mimicking the stormtroopers as a baby. I just wanted that stuff around me so bad that I pursued it to a ridiculous level. Hi, my name is Gordon Tarpley. I am a builder of all kinds of things. The things I'm asked to do cover the whole gamut. I work on classic props, where I use very, very modern techniques to assist in recreating parts. And sometimes I make new stuff where I use old school techniques like sculpting.
I use these cheapo cups because they have the lines.
It's almost as good as like a graduated cup, but they're way cheaper. Because my dad works in the film industry, whenever there was something on screen, he would point at it and tell me kind of how they made it.
There it goes.
Then as a little kid, it was just always in my head to think about how that object came into existence. Back in 2006 or 2007, I decided I wanted to build a C-3PO costume. And 3PO parts are rare and hard to come by. To make your own parts requires a whole set of skills. how I have half the skills I have now is from making 3PO parts. I obsessed over getting every one of the little greebly details 3D modeled as accurately as possible. One of the best parts about being in there is seeing the reactions, everybody's face just light up. It's like what a famous person sees, like Brad Pitt or George Clooney or somebody. It's really fun. All kinds of things are possible if you just put your mind to it. It starts at these like little baby steps, but that adds up super fast. Every little step you make puts you closer to what you want to do.
But wait, there's more. We're missing a chair up here because Grimmel is here. Put your hands together for Academy Award winner F. Murray Abraham. Hurry up and get Murray a mic so he can explain himself to us.
Grimmel will win!
Yeah. Amadeus was awesome, sir.
Yes. How to train your dragon is better.
Murray, let's talk about jumping into this series because this is the final film in the trilogy.
Oh, that's too bad.
Right? and you're here to make me furious and to talk about joining these folks in this film.
It's a funny thing to be here with you now because whatever I say, you will think that I have been asked to say nice things. No one likes to, believe these things that we say in public. But the fact is, I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to be here. And I had a wonderful time with these people. Really, really wonderful. True. And I'm very glad to be here. What else can I say?
Nothing.
Go on, Murray, please.
Here's the thing. I wanted to just pause for a second and give it the gravitas it deserved because I'm just super nerded out right now. So
it's an amazing experience working with these two men. They have two very different styles, but they're both self-directing. So I almost, I don't need to be in the room, really. Jay, he knows the character so well that he can go through the script pages that I write and correct everything to sound a little bit more like Hiccup. And before I even get up, Jay, could you try that? I got it. Every time it's like, I got it, and he'll nail it. And Murray, who helped invent this character for this film, has brought so much power and so many ideas to it. And he's amazing to work. It's like a master class in acting every time we're together. he will go over and over and over the line and over the pages until he gets closer. And after a while, I'll do the first pass reading with him, and then he'll stop me, and he'll go over the lines, and he'll say, "We're getting closer, nope, that wasn't it. I'm backing off, we're going, again, please, again, please, again, please, again, please." And then he'll land on it, and he'll say, "That's the one." So we don't even have to go through the 50 takes, because he's already identified.
And then at the end, let's get it right!
That's right. It's really amazing. These guys are so dedicated to the characters. They bring so much authenticity and truth to them, and it's a real joy to work with both of them.
Likewise.
Now,
I don't think you don't understand, I think, is the kind of energy that you bring to this. It's your contribution that makes this absolutely worthwhile. You should never forget that.
He's right.
Truth.
Am I right?
Now, how do you go about nuts and bolts recording the voiceover that becomes the movie? Now, are the actors all by themselves? Are they together?
Generally all by themselves, in part because, Jay lives in Toronto now. Murray's here in New York City. We have actors that are, Kate Blanchett's in Surrey, England at this point. And so everybody is usually spread around the world working on projects or living where they live. Occasionally, and we did on the last movie, we'll get America Ferrera and Jay together for a pivotal scene, but they actually know their characters so well that they can work with me. I'll play whatever the other voice is, and it still sounds really natural when we put them together. But it's 2 or 3 hours in a recording studio, them standing at a microphone and Brad and I just kind of working with them.
And there's like 3 whole other movies out there with Dean doing all of the other characters' voices, which, one day maybe you'll get to experience it. Be as privileged as we are.
Now let's talk about the title of this film.
The title is The Hidden Worlds.
Thank you, I had forgotten. I was actually just asking you to remind me of it.
It speaks to an old mariner's myth about a secret land at the edge of the world where dragons live completely out of reach. And those sailors that got too close to it went off the edge of a great waterfall, never to be seen again. But it's rumored to be the ancestral home of all dragons. And when pressure starts to mount on Hiccup and his fellow Berkians, feeling like they're too much in the spotlight in an ever-shrinking world, he decides that it's worth a quest to find out whether this place actually exists. Because if it does, it could be a place where the dragons and the humans could live together and maintain their peaceful way of life far away from all of the prying eyes of their enemies. So we have a sequence to show you called The Hidden World. Light Fury has disappeared with Toothless for a matter of days, and Hiccup and Astrid, using Stormfly to track, decide to go in search of him. And this is what they find.
Jurassic Park obviously had a big impact on the field of paleontology. But I really think that it took advantage of a lot of the things that were already out there and a lot of just developing interest in paleontology in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I think the whole Jurassic Park phenomenon, I mean, it's not really about science. You have to realize that it's purely entertainment. In the same way as you don't really get the accurate view of the universe from watching Star Trek or something like that. So really that's what it is. And there's a lot of misconception, a lot of things just to make it entertaining. Does that bother me? It doesn't really bother me at all because it's purely for entertainment. You just have to look at it that way. During the mid-80s when I was in grad school and into the late 1980s, paleontology just became more and more of a focus of people's interest. I mean, when I was a little kid, it was all about Jacques Cousteau and the space program, and that seemed to be changed somehow in the 1980s. And I think really Jurassic Park took advantage of that phenomenon rather than creating it. It's really hard to calculate the average lifespan of the dinosaurs because there really hasn't been that many of them which have been intensively studied. One of the most intensively studied is Tyrannosaurus rex, and we published a paper several years ago on it which showed that the oldest Tyrannosaurus rex known was about 26, 27 years old, and that's the specimen at the Field Museum, the Sioux specimen, that they reached adult size or somatic maturity, so full size, at about 18, 19 years. There's been a lot of speculation that Tyrannosaurus rex was a scavenger, but I just don't see it. And I don't think that's a very popular feeling amongst most professional paleontologists. I mean, experiments that have been done by my colleague Greg Erickson and stuff have shown that their bite force was so powerful that just by chomping one time, bones just explode. I mean, if you take and you submit the bite force of a T-Rex just on a 2x4 in a pressure chamber, it doesn't just drill a hole in it. The actual thing just completely explodes into pieces about that big. So, I think that if you look at T-Rex skeletons, almost every large tyrannosaur that's ever been excavated has a lot of damage on it, has rehealed bones, just suggesting that they had a very active lifestyle. There's even been some bones of herbivorous dinosaurs that have been found that have broken off T-Rex teeth stuck into the bones, and then they rehealed, so that indicated an attack that they survived.
It's so many feelings. Brad.
The one thing I just want to make sure that we talk about is, Dean and Murray and Jay and I are very lucky to be here in front of you, but there's 300 people that have been working on this movie for the last 3 or 4 years. and they're super solid, top of their game, and they're right up here with us. Yeah.
Can you take me back, Brad, to a moment that you saw maybe the art for this movie or the first clip, and when you just knew that this was going to turn out like what we just saw?
Well, the greatest, perhaps, challenge you could have as a production designer is to invent a mythical world that doesn't exist. And with the challenge of a mythical place that dragons still exist today, when you walked into our filmmaking room, if you will, there, and you see the art sort of festooned completely on all the walls, you feel like you're standing in the middle of a magical place. And when you see the other aspects of the design, they're connected to the magma of the earth and everything, where there's a real authentic connection to this possible fantastical place. You know, I knew it would be like this. Gorgeous.
Man. And it's not only gorgeous, but it seems like there's going to be more action in this movie than maybe we've seen in the other films and the TV series. But for you guys doing the voices, how do you physically get into a really intense scene where you've got to move around? Like, as a non-actor, that's something that always really perplexes me. Like, when you're supposed to be fighting, are you actually fighting when you're recording?
I mean, I usually moving about quite a bit, doing all sorts of like, you know, there's a lot of going, you know, and that's good for climbing, for being on the saddle of a dragon, for sword fights. It's a lot of effort sounds, and sometimes you have to jump about to get the proper sound to come out, the proper out of you.
He's making a joke about something that actually is not easy. He's really good at what he does. What I do is a big secret, and I'm not going to tell you.
So there. So theoretically, this was always envisioned as a trilogy, and this I think that was more, what I just heard yelled. Yeah. More TV, more movies.
More or 4. Either would be appropriate.
Wait, could you give me that noise one more time, Jay? Great. So as we're sitting in front of everybody here, perhaps for the final time as far as the movie comes out, fingers crossed that that's not true, what would you like to leave everybody with today? About the series, about what it means to you, or what it means in general to all of us right now?
Well, so I grew up a Star Wars kid. That initial
heard of it, yes.
That initial trilogy caused me to sort of act out my own epic adventures in my backyard with my action figures, and I wrote my own stories and drew, and never thought that I would find my way, you know, into this position. But what I think is kind of amazing is we've had an opportunity, a very, very rare opportunity, to craft a trilogy, to tell 3 installments, 3 acts of one story, and to do each with a level of quality and integrity that they stand on their own, as well as being part of one larger story. So if we do our job well and this movie turns out to be as good as we hope it will be, it's kind of a rare contribution, actually, to put another trilogy out there that kind of stands alongside with the Toy Stories and the Lord of the Rings and those movies that didn't ever let you down with any of the installments. And so that's what we hope. All 300 of us working on the movie hope that we do that for you, and to be able to, you know, give it a period with the original integrity that we had in place, and not just to let it sort of carry on and on and on as losing its sense of purpose. That's what we hope for.
Yeah. Well, it's really too bad that there's nothing left to show. Oh, you guys got that out there? You got that? Nice. How about everybody in the audience give a little effort noise? That's a lot of effort. That's,
yeah, wow. All
you
right.
guys are like hiccup times 5,600.
The bar has been raised, yeah.
Really nicely done.
We have one last treat for you. You know, believe it or not, I, like you, don't like spoilers. So we try not to put things that are out there that are going to give away the whole story. There's a lot left to be uncovered. But we do have a second trailer, which we are going to debut with you right now.
Hi, I'm Jackie Jennings with SYFY WIRE. If you can't get enough of New York Comic Con, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for news, interviews, cosplay, and so much more. What are you waiting for?